The city never truly slept. But at 3 in the morning, it felt like it did. Neon lights buzzed softly over the narrow streets, painting the wet asphalt with streaks of pink, blue, and gold. In a quiet corner cafe, 6 friends were crowded around a small wooden table, laughing and arguing over trivial things, just as they had for years. This was their little universe, a bubble of warmth against the cold pre-dawn air. There was Jin, tall and quiet, with black hair that always fell into his eyes whenever he laughed. He was the group's silent observer, always with a notebook nearby, scribbling melodies no one else could hear. And then there was Minho, smaller, with soft brown eyes and a smile that could make anyone forget the night's chill. He leaned over the table, teasing Jin mercilessly. Their friendship was a classic case of opposites attract. It started in their first year of college, and though Minho was loud and reckless compared to Jin's careful reserve, there was a rhythm to their bond, an unspoken understanding that no one else could quite break. Across from them, Heijin and Sue, inseparable since childhood, bickered like an old married couple. Heijin's sharp wit often clashed with Sue's stubbornness, but the warmth between them was undeniable. You could see it in the little things, the way Sue would reach across the table to brush a stray strand of hair from Heijin's forehead, or the way Heijin would catch Sue's hand mid-gesture, holding on just a little longer than necessary. Their arguments were just another form of affection, a language only they understood. Then there were Yunho and Taemin, the newest additions to the group. They had joined under quiet, almost mysterious circumstances, but they fit in so seamlessly it felt like they had been there all along. Yunho was gentle, with a cautious gaze that seemed to hide a storm of feelings just beneath the surface. Taemin, on the other hand, was bold and chaotic, a force of nature who seemed determined to pull Yunho into every one of his reckless adventures, laughing all the while. The night stretched on, a comfortable haze of laughter, spilled coffee, and music drifting faintly from the corner radio. It was a perfect familiar scene, but beneath the surface, something was beginning to shift. Subtle currents of misunderstanding, fleeting glances that held a little too much weight, and words left unspoken were starting to carve the first, almost invisible cracks in their intertwined lives. It all started so small, almost unnoticeable. It started with Jin and Minho. "Do you really think that song works?" Minho asked, tilting his head with one eyebrow raised in that playful way of his. Jin's fingers tapped a nervous rhythm against the wooden table. I think it does," he stammered. "It's just, I'm not sure if the lyrics are too—" He trailed off, unable to finish. "Too sad?" Minho teased, a grin tugging at his lips. But then, a sudden quiet fell between them. Jin didn't answer. The words he desperately wanted to say, the ones about how every melody he wrote, every chord he played had a trace of Minho in it, stayed buried deep inside. Minho, sensing the hesitation, felt his easy smile falter. A subtle tension, thin as a spider's thread, wove itself into the space between them. Meanwhile, the bickering duo was in full swing. Heijin was mid-rant, waving a hand dramatically. "I swear, Sue, you're impossible sometimes. You can't just—" Sue's hand shot out to stop him, and their shared laughter cracked the quiet air. "Impossible? Me? I'm a saint compared to you." Their familiar back and forth drew a few quiet laughs from Yunho and Taemin, who were watching the whole scene unfold. Yunho's fingers twitched, an almost subconscious urge to reach for Taemin's hand. Noticing the small movement, Taemin gently squeezed his hand under the table, a silent, grounding reassurance in the middle of the happy chaos. The hours slipped by, measured in bursts of joy and moments of quiet tension. Finally, as the first hints of dawn began to paint the sky, they spilled out onto the streets, chasing the last remnants of the fading city lights. They walked, their footsteps echoing on the damp pavement, their laughter bouncing off the walls of the silent buildings. It was on one of these walks, under the glow of the skyscrapers, that the first true fracture appeared. Jin and Minho lingered behind the others, their pace slowing as they walked down a rain-slicked alley. The neon signs above reflected like shattered jewels in the puddles at their feet. "You're distant tonight," Minho said softly, his voice almost swallowed by the gentle drizzle. Jin looked up, his eyes shadowed and unreadable in the dim light. "I'm fine," he replied, the words sounding hollow even to himself. "No, you're not." Minho's tone was sharper now, laced with a desperation he couldn't hide. "You've been different since that meeting. You barely even look at me, Jin." Jin swallowed hard, caught in a painful tug-of-war between honesty and fear. "It's nothing. Really." Minho's lips pressed into a thin, tight line. "It's not nothing if you're avoiding me." The silence that followed was heavy, drenched in the cold rain and the unspoken truths that hung between them. It was a silence filled with everything Jin wanted to say. How every song he had written this semester, every quiet late night spent alone with his guitar, was haunted by thoughts of Minho. But the words were fragile, dangerous, and they caught in his throat. Minho, sensing only rejection in the silence, let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. He took a small step back, and suddenly, the space between them felt like an impossible chasm, too wide to cross. The first crack had been made, and the foundation of their world had begun to tremble. This is just the beginning of their story, a journey of love, friendship, and the difficult choices that can change everything. If you're as invested in these 6 friends as I am and want to see what happens next, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next chapter.